Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Chasing Dreams podcast with Charlie and Justin. This is episode 43. Justin, how are you I usually say this lovely morning, but I think the past 2 weeks in a row, we've said this lovely evening or night.
Yep. It's nice.
It's actually beautiful out. We're recording on Saturday night. Last time was Friday night, I believe.
Friday night.
We're actually just going to get this uploaded in the nick of time because we're going to record here. I'll do some editing with our music, and then we'll post it up.
Yep. It's perfect.
So we both had kind of eventful days today.
Yeah.
I'll start with mine first because yours is a little bit more meaningful, I guess, for lack of a better word. So I spent my day in Columbus with my coach, Austin Stout. We went out to his place, and he had an integrated muscle and health education camp is what he calls them. Integrated Muscle and Health is the name of his branding, like his coaching services and stuff, and he calls it he has these education camps, which are essentially like seminars where he has guest speakers in and we train and all that stuff. So we went into a lot today, almost like too much stuff to really even get into detail on the podcast because it was like we went down a lot of rabbit holes with different topics that we talked about with the guest speakers, and then we got a training session in, which was really good. So when we have Austin on in the near future, because he's going to come on, we're just trying to work around his hectic schedule. We'll kind of talk more about that, at a later date, but that's constituted all of my Saturday for the most part. Nice. So
I really enjoy watching his informational and educational videos, that he puts out because that guy has so much knowledge.
Yeah. Very smart.
And he's so nice.
Yeah.
And then you watch his training videos, and he's a whole other side of him. It's
flip the switch from nice to mean real fast.
Right.
Successful training session, though. Nobody threw up.
Yeah.
We had a couple people today that were pretty close. A lot of them trained legs, and actually I was upset because I didn't get to participate in the leg training because I trained legs yesterday.
Right.
And I purposefully, normally, as of the way my split is set up right now, I train legs on Saturdays. And yesterday, I actually switched my leg day to Friday because I'm like, you know what? No one's going to train legs out there, so I'm going to get my leg workout done now. That way I can train with someone. And then they show up, and like 4 of the guys were doing legs. And I'm like, of course. I already got it out of the way yesterday, so I can't do it today. But overall, it was a good experience.
Right.
And like I said, when I first opened up, you had a lot more of a meaningful experience today.
Wow. Yeah, so it's it's 9/12. Yesterday was 9/11, and everybody at the fire department in my fire department had to work. So we were all talking, and we said we wanted to do the it's not really a challenge, but the 9/11 stair climb where you do 110 flights of stairs in turnout gear with an air pack, and it's just to, I guess, symbolize what them guys went through. There was 343 firefighters that ran into that crazy day, and they never went home. So, and they climbed 110 flights of stairs. So we did that this morning, and boy, let me tell you, I honestly, so when we first said we were going to do it, I said, I think we'll be all right. I don't think it's going to be as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then this morning, I said, no, it's going to suck.
Well, before let's preface the description of the experience first with you telling us like the turnout gear, the air packs. How much in total is that gear weigh?
I don't know the exact weight. I'd say close to 60 pounds.
Okay,
maybe 65. Your boots are big and clunky.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I found was the hardest was like your span of stepping, like your step length is so much shorter, and I never realized it when I was in turnout gear before. Mm-hmm. But walking up and down stairs all day.
So you're in full firefighter garb. You have the air pack, you have the helmet.
Yep.
Everything, boots.
Absolutely everything but a mask. We didn't go on air. They weren't on air, so we tried to keep it as true to form to what they went through,
very authentic
as possible. Now, obviously, we didn't have the stress, or the anxiety of what these people were going through and what the firefighters were going through to get there.
Impossible to replicate or simulate in that sense.
it was really humbling too, because we got through 10 revolutions. So we went up and down the steps 10 times. That was the plan. We were going to do 11 sets of 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at my watch, and my heart rate was like 185.
So you would do up and down 10 times. That would be like a set.
Yeah.
To put it into lifting terms,
right.
So that would be a set.
Right.
And then you would take how long of a break?
30 seconds to a couple minutes. Just
okay.
Whatever.
Just
the first
how
time
tired
was like,
we were.
First set was like a 5-minute break, let me tell you. So it was tough though, and it got down to where we were doing like sets of 5.
Mm-hmm.
We were going up and down 5 times and then have to take a break. It took us 86 minutes in total.
Now, do you run up the stairs? Do you walk up the stairs?
Just walk. In the fire department, you do everything with a purpose, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't run, because when you start running, you start making mistakes, tripping, falling, and you're just adding steps to the job. So move with a purpose. You don't need to run. That's what they keep teaching me, because every time I grab a hose and want to do something, I want to run.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just from the working out thing, not really knowing. So they're slowing me down some on purpose, which is nice, because actually, you slow down, you get better.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was really humbling, man. Like, because these guys, they didn't take breaks. I'm sure that at some point some of them might have had to stop and take a breather, but for the most part, they were working.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, and we were trying to do this for fun, and it was very exhausting. So I enjoyed it. It made me feel like I respect the job that much more.
Yeah.
And then, it's today, 9/12 is like my favorite day to remember, because 19 years ago, to me, it was the best day I've ever remember in this country, because everybody loved each other. Every street corner you see an American flag. You didn't have the black-white conflicts. You didn't have Republican, Democrat. It didn't matter. You didn't have Ohio State, Michigan fans. You didn't have we were all Americans, and we all cared about each other. And it seems like we're so far away from that now. And it's like, so I kind of enjoy doing it on the 12th, just because it's one of my favorite days of the year to remember, is that unity in this country. And it was cool.
And it seemed pretty long lasting too, the impact of
that.
Obviously the impact of 9/11 will last forever, but I mean impact in the sense of that continuity between peoples and cultures and everything. That was the first time in my lifetime. Now, we were both young when it happened, but the first time in my lifetime, and obviously the most pronounced since then, where I'd ever seen all of the United States come together and form, one group of people. Right. It was like one contingency. It was remarkable.
It was like the only presidential speech I've ever seen where there wasn't people booing.
Mm.
When George Bush gave that speech at Ground Zero, it was the only time I think I've ever seen a president talk to a crowd and somebody wasn't mad at him. Everybody was behind each other and lifting each other up. It wasn't there was no conflict like within us.
Yeah,
and I really enjoyed that.
I'm thankful that we got to see it.
Part of me, thankful that we get to see the ability for people to unite.
Yeah.
It's a tragedy. It's a travesty that this country had to go through that kind of a loss to bring the people back together.
Well, that's kind of an analogy for everything.
Yeah.
We've talked about that several times, specifically in regards to health, like how someone has a health scare and then they start getting really serious about their diet. Like it's very unfortunate, but sometimes it takes a person to have a heart attack or have any type of health issue or health concern that could be potentially disastrous, life-threatening even, and that puts them on a different path where they change their way of thinking, change their way of training, change their way of eating or whatever. And it's sad that all the time in life we need to have tragedy happen before we can have triumph.
Right.
Something bad has to happen. Well, it's like, with everything, like, you don't, the old saying, you don't appreciate something until it's gone. You don't appreciate your health until it's gone. You don't
Right.
like, I could go and break my leg. Every day I wake up, I don't, say a prayer, and I'm not thankful for the ability to walk, even though realistically you should be.
Right.
But you're not thankful for the ability to walk until it's taken from you. Then all of a sudden you realize, how blessed you were to be able to walk, and there's people out there who can't walk.
Right.
Even if it's for a short period of time, or others for their entire lives, they won't be able to walk. Which is, kind of a good position for people like you and I to be in, because we have unlimited blessings, so much so that we can't possibly be thankful for all the things we need to be thankful for.
You could say that again.
And that's kind of a deeper conversation when you talk about, specifically relating back to 9/11, about all the freedoms we have and everything. I think that what's interesting is you're stuck in this paradigm right now where you see a lot of polarity between 2001 and now. And you see how the country used to be very unified, and there was a lot of togetherness with that. And then you briefly alluded to it earlier about how we're the furthest thing from that now.
Right.
What's sad is people need to be cognizant of the fact that what allows us to be the way we are now was because of things like that to happen previously.
Right.
Like freedom of speech. People are allowed to say what they want, say how they feel, whether it's on social media or, protesting outright publicly. We're allowed to do those things. Whereas in some countries you get arrested or killed for saying things that people don't agree with,
Right.
So regardless of how America may seem to you, to your particular circumstance, how off things may be from what you think ethically, morally, socially, what they should be, I think you need to be thankful for the fact that you are able to have that opinion.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. And it's, touching on like you said, the freedom of speech. A lot of times we use that as a defense for ourselves. We're like, I can say whatever I want. I have the freedom to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So do you. Like if I say that, but I need to always remember that, yeah, I have the right to say whatever I want, but so does Charlie.
Yeah.
So does Joe Bob down the street. So when Joe Bob says that he's pro-Biden and I'm self-proclaimed pro-Trump, whatever, that argument should never ensue because he's entitled to his opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm entitled to mine. I think if everybody would take a step back and say, wait a minute, they're entitled to that.
Well, I think it's all about word choice. Like you said, that argument never should ensue.
Right.
But like we've talked about in a very recent episode, that discussion should ensue. Again, it was a fitness conversation where we talked about seeking out people that think differently from you because you're going to be open to more ideas. So take people who train differently than you. Take people who, eat differently than you. Take people who, think differently than you in any way, shape, or form, and you can transcend the fitness industry and put that in any type of situation. Where I think that arguments don't need to be held, but discussions need to be had.
Absolutely. I mean, that's where growth comes from. If you could have an adult conversation about two completely different opinions and still shake hands and be friends at the end of it, that's what the freedom of speech is all about.
Yeah.
Is being able to set our differences aside and realize, but hey, we're still both Americans. We're still alive.
But that's been an ongoing issue with people a lot, where it's almost like, so I have this saying that I always use with people, and it's kind of a cop-out for me to not get in discussions that I don't want to get into. I always tell people, I said in the work setting, or any type of public sector for that matter, but I always say in the work setting, I don't talk religion, I don't talk politics, I don't talk football, because those are the three things that people get so obsessive over.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to use the term obsessive, because if you're obsessing over something, it could actually be a good thing. And if you're, very convicted in your religious beliefs or in your political beliefs or with your sports teams, like that's a good thing. Like I'm glad that you're, very convicted and you feel, again, obsessive, I guess, for lack of a better term there. But people get very, very defensive, and people typically aren't willing to hear outside arguments. It
Right.
seems like from those three things. So I say that I try to shy away from those conversations, and honestly, maybe I should be doing the opposite, because maybe the more I have those types of discussions with people, maybe they will gradually start to possibly become a little bit more level-headed
I like it.
and feel like they can have those conversations with me. Like if you're having, because ultimately, let's be honest, it takes two people to have an argument.
Right.
Like if you are starting to get heated and I'm staying calm, there's not going to be much of an argument to be had, because
Right. I'm just going to be huffy puffy.
yeah, and I'm just going to, be relaxed or
Yeah.
whatever. So I think that maybe you do need to have, or I personally do need to have those discussions more, because I can make sure that, I'm not, how do I want to word this? I'm not taking away someone's opportunity for growth by
Right.
not having that discussion with them.
Not taking away your opportunity for growth, because we're not.
Yeah, sure. Good
'cause
point. Very good point.
Technically, I mean, because I can't tell you how many times I thought I was right.
Mm-hmm.
And then I listened to somebody talk, and they explained why over and over again, and they really tried to get me to understand. And right then, I never said, that they were right. But later on, I'd think about it, and I'd be like, I don't know that they're right, but I'm questioning whether I'm right or not. Or if I have room to grow in this area. Now, that's only recent, because that comes with maturity. Like, you have to grow into that.
Yeah.
Being able to justify saying that you were wrong doesn't happen overnight.
Well, in that regard, intelligence always has to start with you making a conscientious effort to admit that you don't know everything.
Right.
Like, it has to start with you. It's an internal thing to say, hey, I don't know everything. And like, it's kind of like we've talked about with the human body. I always tell people, it's a common saying that a lot of people use, is the more I learn, the more I realize, or the dumber I get, because you realize that you know so little about, well, whatever. It could be anything, politically, religious, and the human body, what have you. So that's why I always tried to, I don't know if that was something that was like innate, but for me, I've always had this like predisposition to wanting to learn too.
Yeah.
So like, I've never, two of the things that I've always liked since I was a little kid are learning new things and getting in arguments with people. Like I would always say that I was, my dad would get upset because he would always say how I'm very combative with people, and people who know me now, I don't think that I would be labeled as combative, or at least I try not to be.
No.
But I would always spin it around and say, no, Dad, I'm not argumentative or combative. I just, I enjoy debates and I enjoy discussions. And I would just change the wording so it made it sound like, it's me expanding my horizons a little bit. But so I think that some people may just like innately be a little bit more predisposed to being willing to have those conversations with people, which, like, honestly, how many times have you seen in the news nowadays where that's what it's strange, because we kind of have reached a unanimous decision or conclusion that in order to make problems or perceived problems go away, so like racism is a buzzword now, in order to make that go away, everybody knows that there's discussions that need to be held so people can kind of express their feelings. But despite everybody knowing that those discussions need to be held, it seems like very few people are actually willing to sit down and have them.
Right. Well, it's, everybody's afraid to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And I think fear mongering in this country is at an all-time high.
Mm-hmm. From different political parties, from every rich way.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. It's everybody, instead of trying to educate your other person, whoever you're going against in any kind of a topic, instead of that, it seems like in this country, in society, not even just the country, and just in society in general, we go to that, if I can just scare them,
Mm-hmm.
if I can just scare you into believing that's all I care about. I just want you to believe me.
Well, I think that the tensions are so high for people's point of views because, no pun intended here, but a lot of it's black and white. Like, you're either this or you're that. So, like, let's take politics, for example. You have, obviously, there are more parties than Democrat or Republican, but
sadly enough, that's the only two that we get to vote on.
Yeah, the way that the system works now, with finance and stuff, you have it between two realistic possibilities. It's either this or it's that. So people, who register as Republican or register as a Democrat typically tend to shy towards that viewpoint for everything.
Yeah.
Which I don't see why it should be like that.
Let me just preface that with, I usually judge people by their party affiliation.
Mm-hmm.
If you say you're a Democrat, I automatically label you as a Democrat. Now, I'm really making a conscious effort to not even care. Like, I don't even want to know who you're voting for.
Yeah.
What I want to know is your morals and your belief system from now on. And I really am going to make an effort within myself to stop judging people by judging a book by its cover.
Well, I think that if most people too were to put an outline of all different buzz topics, like hot topics right now, I feel like most people would likely be, I don't know if it would be even, but they would definitely have some on both the right and the left viewpoints. So that's how I am, where almost to the point where I don't know if I could consider myself a Republican or a Democrat based on everything that I believe. If you put my different stance on social issues or economic issues, I'm all over the board for different things. So,
but yeah, I am the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Where if that's why I used to say I'm registered as a Republican.
Yeah.
Because basically, like you said, everybody basically is either registered Democrat or registered Republican.
Mm-hmm.
Because in school, that's the only two options they give you. They don't give you that other. I mean, whenever I registered in high school, that's what it was. You were either this or that.
Yep.
But now I really consider myself more libertarian than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the list of topics, the buzzword topics, I like that buzzword topics list. I am all over the list. It's this way, that way, the other way. It doesn't matter, but it's weird. I bet you, and like you said, I think if you gave 100 people, and they were all half of them were Democrat, half of them were Republican, and you gave them all the same list and didn't label the heading, Republican, Democrat, just where do you stand on each topic? I bet you they laid out more of the opposite than they really thought they were.
I'm sure.
And I wish that we could do that. I wish we could get away from the two-party system, that quote-unquote two-party system, because it's not.
Yeah.
That's the reason, that's the problem. I think that's the biggest problem we have. But we're doing that thing that, we don't like to do and talk about politics.
Yeah,
so.
You know what? It's funny that you said that, because
you were thinking it.
As we were kind of finishing up this discussion here, I thought to myself, we always talk about, hey, we're not going to talk politics on our show, and sure enough, we ended up divulging into that conversation there.
Back to training.
back to the point at hand. Today was an eventful day for both of us, because mine was a day of education, and yours was a day of reflection.
Yes.
So,
it's been almost 2 days of reflection, because we did it for 2 days. We did this today. Yesterday, I started my day off at 3:00 in the morning. Troy, the guy I work out with, my best friend, one of the guys I work out with pretty much every day, he showed up to the gym with me, and it was a push day, so I was thinking of something we could do just to kind of honor them guys, the 343 that would have woke up that morning to never go back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what we could do, and I thought about it, and I said, what is the hardest thing for me to do now that I never used to be able to do? Push-ups.
Yeah.
So we did 343 push-ups yesterday morning. And it was hard. I mean, it was. Like, by the end of it, by the last couple videos, I ain't got no shirt on, no shame at all, just sweating and grunting them out. My form got worse and worse as we went, but we made sure we did every single one. And it was a really good time. And by the time we were done with it, man, it was like, I am glad we did that. Like, I am glad that we took the time took our workout, set it aside, and did something for somebody that can't do anything at all anymore.
Interestingly enough, I can attest to firsthand, to your improvement. An improvement isn't even a word that does it justice with push-ups. Because when we used to train, because I think that you and I kind of started training together, at least in
Arms
some
with the boys
capacity,
on
when we would
Saturdays.
do on Fridays.
Fridays.
So what we did was, I never trained arms personally, like directly, as far as like a day. Like I never had an arm day.
Yeah.
And
Nights.
One Friday, I was at the gym, and a mutual friend of ours, Corey, and I lifted arms together because he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, I was going to do, a press day or whatever." He's like, "You want to hit arms with me?" I said, "Sure." So we trained arms. And then, if I'm not mistaken, he and I ended up going to get a bite to eat afterwards. Well, then, flash forward to, and I'm getting to your push-up thing in a minute. This is a convoluted way to get there. So, flash forward to the next week. Corey and I, on Thursday, said, "Hey, you want to train arms again tomorrow?" He said, "Yeah, let's do it again." Same thing. Then we went out to eat. Well, slowly, this Friday training arms and then going out to eat kind of became a tradition for us.
Yeah.
And slowly, again, we started adding a couple more people to the point where we probably had 7 or 8 guys that were training arms together, taking up the whole gym on a Friday because the gym's pretty much vacant on a Friday.
Yep.
Not completely empty, I guess, but a lot less crowded than the normal weekdays. So we'd all train arms together, go out to eat. One of the things that we would do as part of our arm training, especially when we had big groups, we'd do like push-up circuits, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So what we would do is we would go into the turf room, and we'd have us all in like a circle, and we would set a certain number of push-ups that we had to get in total. So if there was 5 of us, we said, let's do 1,200 or 1,000 or whatever, 1,500 or whatever. And we would start counting with the first person, doing 1, 2, 3, 4. Once that person hit failure, it would go to the next person, and they would pick up where they left off. So if the first person got to 43, next person would start counting 44, 45, 46. And we would have like a set number of total push-ups that we had to do as a group. And I remember that when you first started joining us, you said, "Hey, I'll join you guys, but I can't do push-ups." And you were doing them, your typical push-ups from the knees, like how beginners.
Push-ups.
There you go. He said it, not me. So you're doing your push-ups from the knees, and even doing push-ups from your knees, still struggling to get a handful after the first set.
Right.
And now to see videos where you're doing full-on push-ups for several sets over the course of an entire morning, and you said you did almost 500 by the end of the day, right?
Yeah, I did 343. So we ended up doing 41 sets of 10. And then we did a set of 23 at the end.
Okay.
And then I set alarms on my phone because I've done it since I was young, because I got a phone and I really started to mature and think about 9/11. I started setting alarms for the times that the planes hit the towers, the Pentagon, Flight 93 hitting the field in Pennsylvania. And just to take a second out of my day, whatever I was doing, and a moment of silence, just to reflect on what them people went through. So this year, the fitness niche that I'm in, and the things that I'm doing now in life, I decided to take it a step farther, and I say a quick prayer, and I do 10 push-ups at the time of the impact. And I just wanted to, I feel like, because I was doing it in gravel, I was doing it in my work clothes, I was out in the heat, on the side of a lease road where it's real dusty, something to make myself uncomfortable, because I'm sure they weren't comfortable.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to do something different.
And I know that's kind of an ongoing theme of yours, which has been a discussion for us and for the listeners for a long time now, is your enjoyment of being in uncomfortable situations.
Right.
Which, of course, is an opportunity for growth.
Yeah. So I ended up doing 400. What I ended up doing, I did 343 in the morning and then 40 more, so 383 push-ups yesterday.
How many? You said 343 and 40 more?
Yeah.
So 383.
Yeah.
Yep.
So almost 400 push-ups yesterday. And I've been doing 22 push-ups a day for PTSD awareness, and to raise awareness to the 22 veterans that attempt to or succeed in killing themselves every day.
Now, this is not veteran specific, but that's been a big thing in the news lately. Also, is mental health awareness.
Yeah, dude,
which is something that you can never bring too much attention to, in my opinion.
And if it was up to me solely, we would talk about it on every episode, because if one episode is all it takes to help somebody get over that, that's our job.
Yep.
As self-proclaimed public figures, that's our job, is to give somebody an outlet. Personally, that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah,
that's why I'm doing the 22 push-ups. That's why I'm doing this podcast. If that's why I go to the gym every day and I talk to strangers and I make myself look stupid sometimes. That's just why I do the things I do, and I know that's why we get along.
Well, how many times have you heard stories about people being deterred away from a potentially fatal situation, due to depression or anxiety or whatever? They're deterred away from that just because of simple conversation that they had.
Yeah.
Or they met someone earlier that day that made them smile and it kind of resonated with them and made them change their mind about things. Yeah. So I don't think that you can really overstate the impact that minor actions have on people.
I agree.
And it's very contagious. So when you do something nice for someone, they feel good about themselves, and like the whole pay it forward mentality. I think that's a real thing that happens, and I've seen it firsthand, and I've experienced it firsthand with myself.
Yeah. So that's yeah, man. It's something that is so important. I think if as a country we could focus just a minute amount of time out of every day to be nice to a complete stranger, this place would be so much better. When my uncle was a huge impact in my life, and he died when I was really young. But I can remember the last thing he told me, in the days leading up to when he passed, the last meaningful conversation we had. He said, "I don't want you to be sad. I don't want you to get upset when I die." We knew he was going to die. He had cancer, and it was just a matter of time. He said, "I don't want you to be sad. I don't want you to get upset. But what I want you to do is, on my birthday and on the day that I die, every year for the rest of your life, do something random, a random act of kindness for somebody completely strange, somebody you've never met before. So if that's holding the door open at a grocery store, or paying for somebody's groceries, or, telling somebody their eyes look nice today, or their hair looks nice, or whatever it is. It could be something stupid as, hey, do you need a napkin? I mean, something completely stupid. He didn't care. He just wanted me to do that. And this was almost 10 years ago. So it was before all this craziness was going on, and I thought that has had such an impact on me, because it's like I want to always do that. And I take it a step farther. I try to do it every day. I really do, because it's like you said, you don't know. You never know when you're talking to somebody that is contemplating suicide or contemplating giving up. And if you give them, just that nudge of niceness, being nice to them for just a second.
Now, I wish I had the exact words, but instead I'm going to have to paraphrase like I normally do, because, you and I are big quote guys.
Yeah.
And we try to, use them as reference points for people, and we bring them up on the podcast. Well, there's a famous quote that I'm sure several of our listeners are familiar with. And again, just paraphrasing, I don't know the exact way the quote is worded, although I'm sure it's kind of, a lot of quotes have the same meaning, but they're worded differently depending on, who you're talking to or what source you're getting them from. But what it boils down to is, there's a quote that says, kindness and, showing how much you care is judged by doing something nice for people who can't do anything for you. So it kind of, hints at people doing nice things and expecting things in return.
Right.
Versus helping someone who has no ability to help you in return or help you back. That's where true character is exposed, I think. And I've always liked that, that kind of mindset mentality of needing to help people that can't help you.
Right.
Because those are most often the ones that need the most help. But it's like you said, you don't know who needs help.
Right. That's why I just am nice to everybody.
Like when you see, someone who's homeless.
Yeah.
It's very safe to assume that person clearly needs help. Now, you may have people that are equally or even in more unfortunate situations, because I truly believe that a poor mental state is probably about the worst state you can be in. It supersedes physical, it supersedes financial. I mean, being in a bad place mentally is probably the lowest place that you can be, because there's nothing else rock bottom that you can lose from that situation other than your life at that point.
Right.
So just because someone appears outwardly to have everything, whether they have a lot of money or a nice job or a lot of friends, that isn't solely indicative of them being happy with their situation or where they're at. Sometimes those people are the absolute most miserable. And I don't mean miserable in the sense of they're unfulfilled because of their own accord, because sometimes people get labeled as unfulfilled because they don't have enough and they'll never have enough. But sometimes that in and of itself can lead to further mental health issues.
Right.
So, like you said, you might as well be nice to everybody.
Well, that's the other thing on that topic, on that being nice to everybody topic. It is harder to be mean to somebody than it is to say something nice.
Mm-hmm.
I know it is for me. I physically, like, whenever we're with the guys and everybody's ribbing each other and and being mean.
Yep.
It's, for lack of better words, that's what we're doing. We're all joking. It's all fun and love and war. We all have a good time. But when the guys get together, sometimes the guys can be downright mean. I have a really hard time with that, having that mean comment, that joking, that air quote there, that jokingly being mean.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times that my stuff comes out really bad because it's like, I really have to think about it. Like, that's not something that comes natural. Now, saying, I like your glasses, are those new? That's natural for me. You know what I mean? Like, just being nice is something that, I guess it's product of when I was raised, when I was young. My mom was never about that, being mean to people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she would backhand me faster than anything, for even if it was like just not even that bad. You know what I mean? Like, she didn't put up with that too well. So
I don't want to necessarily say that people are getting nicer. But on the same hand, I don't want to say people are getting meaner. But one thing that is a positive piece of information that I can kind of give to you guys, at least from what I see and from being in the trenches of a school, in my estimation, I think that bullying has gotten a lot better.
That's
now,
a good thing.
Obviously, there are ways that bullying has kind of worked its way outside of teacher views. So it doesn't always happen at school, because cyberbullying now and things happening on social media are, I don't want to say more prevalent, because they didn't even exist back then. So, of course, they're more prevalent now. But it seems like overall there's a lot more acceptance going on in schools. Maybe I was just blind to it. Not blind to it, but maybe I was the opposite. Maybe I was a little bit more sensitive when I was younger and I saw it more often. And maybe I'm blind to it now. I don't know. But it just seems like there's a lot more acceptance going on in schools, at least from my small firsthand amount of experience.
Right.
Which is obviously a positive.
That's definitely a positive, because when I was in high school, there was a considerable amount of bullying, and it wasn't a hot topic back then. It wasn't something that people, that teachers and parents and the news and people actually talked about.
Well, and realistically, those are the kids now, the youth are. So I would consider, at least to some degree, the youth to be you and I and below.
Yeah.
Because our generation is probably about the last of the early adults, because, you and I are now both 30. Oh. So, yeah, I know I don't like saying it either. But you and I and everything below us. I actually had that discussion with two girls I trained, two twins, both phenomenal softball players. And we were talking, and they said, realistically, you guys are the ones that are going to make the change. Mm-hmm. Because the unfortunate reality is, and this is, I don't want to poison the well and put everybody in the same boat, but a lot of people who are older have been in a particular mindset for so long that the willingness to change is virtually impossible at that point. So you may not change people who have been here for generations and generations, but you can have those discussions amongst yourselves and other youthful people. And then that's when you can have the thought process shift over to something that's going to engender a much better society, much better culture, much more acceptance, that sort of thing. So I think that it's actually on us. I don't want to call us younger people necessarily, but It all depends on which lens you're looking through. But it's up to the younger generations to be the beacon of change here, because the unfortunate reality is a lot of the older people have kind of made up their minds on things, it seems.
Well, and we're raising the future now. Like our generation especially, 18 to 30 are the ones that are having kids now. And I'm not saying that people over 30 don't have kids, but I'm saying that's the area, those that were born after 1990, and to now, really, we're the ones that are going to raise the future generation. So how we decide to teach our kids, and do we teach them that everybody's equal? If that's what we do, then we could actually make a change in this country, in the world. It's not really a country thing. I keep saying country because that's where we live, but we can make a change in the world just by the way we raise our kids.
And one of my favorite quotes of all time is, "Be the change you wish to see in the world."
I love that.
And that's just kind of like you and I have talked about from day one of the podcast is, Jocko's extreme ownership.
Yeah.
Like if you want to, it goes into every type of conversation you can have about being a better person, is the lead by example. It has to start with you. If you don't change yourself, you're never going to change anybody else.
It's funny. So yesterday, I made a comment to Troy while we were working out, and I can't remember the comment, but he turned around and posted about that comment later that day, later in the day yesterday, and then later that evening, I was helping him move his stuff from his old house to the house he just bought, and he yelled at somebody. Didn't yell at him, but he was yelling at somebody in traffic. And I was like, we just talked about this morning, and then you posted on social media about it, so live it, man.
Yeah.
Who cares? We can't control that. That's what it was. As I said, if everybody would just focus on what they can control, anger would go down, and all kinds of negativity would just go away, because you can only control certain aspects of your life. And then he posted about it, and then he yelled at this guy for cutting him off. It's like, you can't control what he just did. All you can control is your truck and what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, that's kind of like the same concept. Just be the change. Like you said, be the change that you would like to see.
Yep. I like it. Do you know what you can control? You can control your spending habits. And I think that you should spend a little money by going and checking out Beast Mode Baking. Beast Mode Baking aims to bring the highest quality, creative, and of course delicious baked goods to your home with nationwide shipping. All orders need to be pre-ordered to ensure they are packed fresh and shipped out to you ASAP. Beast Mode Baking offers flat rate shipping of $15 due to the size and weight of the cookies and doughs. So if you're interested in Beast Mode Baking, please check out at SKNORR13. That's at SNOR13. That's Shannon Knorr, the CEO and founder of the company. And she's a woman with a lot of hats, right?
Yes, she is.
Small business owner, professional athlete, nurse,
mom.
Yeah, mental health advocate.
Yep.
Suffering from eating disorders and an early hospitalization for years as a youth. High school dropout turned nurse. I mean, man, what a successful story.
She's an incredible human.
I had told her every time I talked to her, I said, we need to have you back on. Yeah. And she's always down. So definitely someone we're going to have to pencil in, because we actually had an insane amount of downloads from her episode. And that was probably one of the episodes, as far as guests go, that I got the most positive feedback from a wide array of people. Mm-hmm. So it seemed like, a lot of people listen to this person's episode, a lot of people listen to this person's episode, but it was where their interests lie. Whereas I think she kind of reached out and kind of grabbed on to the most people, because she had stories that everybody can relate to in a sense.
Tugged at your heartstrings, man.
Yeah.
Like, she had me sitting on the edge of my seat, because I didn't know her, so I had to wait a whole week to record with her again.
Yeah, before you got the final part.
Oh, man, this is going to be killer.
So we should have, more guests coming up soon.
Yes.
You and I have had the discussions, because it's just been us solo for the past couple weeks, where wanted to get some guests on. Schedules didn't align, so we know who we want to get on in the immediate future. It's just a matter of you and I being able to get our schedules to situate well with theirs, and then we'll record, and you guys should have some much better episodes to listen to than just Justin and I rambling.
Right, no doubt.
All right, man, anything else you want to add before we close up shop for the night?
Yeah, just a challenge. I challenge everybody to, when the time arises where negativity is going to come out of your mouth, take 30 seconds and think, is this going to benefit that person? Is this going to benefit me? And will I actually feel better about it? If the answer to that, any of them questions is no, just do like your mama said. If you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all.
There you go. And mama always has the best advice.
That's it.
All right, so with that, we have come to the end of another episode. This has been the Chasing Dreams podcast, episode 43 with Charlie and Justin. We appreciate your listenership, and hopefully we will hear from you guys next week.
Unbreakable, unstoppable, I'm pushed to the edge and take it all. I'm born to be untamable, go right to the edge and